Let's get this bad boy. Alright, so today's video is going to be on Dead by Daylight. Now, I found this video when I was scrolling through YouTube this morning, and I figured that, it's a short video, so I should be able to react to it. I might make this into a YouTube video. If it does get made into a YouTube video, boop, 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 then, it'll get made into a YouTube video. Either way, what's going on YouTube? Welcome back to another video. And today, we're going to be reacting to analyzing gaming's most entitled community, which obviously I said is Dead by Daylight. Now, I've played Dead by Daylight for a very, very long time. I have around 2,000 hours in the game. And out of most games, I will say that Dead by Daylight's community is very entitled. Now, obviously, he's going to go over this. Make sure, of course, to go check out Scrump's channel. I don't think I've ever seen one of his videos before. Make sure to like and subscribe to his channel. As well, it's my personal account, so, I'm not going to subscribe since I already have a lot of people to subscribe to, but, make sure to go check out his content. If you like his content, subscribe, also like, comment, subscribe, do all that other stuff, but obviously, let's just get into the video, alright?
A common definition for entitlement is as follows.
Hold on, let me, really quick, just make sure that the audio is good. I'll probably...
belief that one is inherently deserving of privileges or special treatment. I personally define it as Dead by Daylight's community. Seriously, there's no game I've played where people expect you to let them win like I've seen with Dead by Daylight. There's no game I've played where there are a set of unspoken rules you have to follow like there is in Dead by Daylight. There's no game that has players give up for the most mundane reasons as there are.
And that is probably one of the biggest facts when it comes to Dead by Daylight ever. If you've played Dead by Daylight, then you know that someone could get hooked. I was playing a game the other day. I think it was yesterday. Was it yesterday? No, it was the day before with a couple of my friends. And mind you, I forgot what map we were on. But, mind you, a lot of us had already gotten hooked, right? So, we had gotten hooked a couple times. I forgot who the killer was. But I remember, I think it was an Ash. He gets hooked. Oh, it was, I think it was Springtrap. Yeah, it was Springtrap, and it was on the, not the alien map, but Gabriel Soma's map, and the, whatever. You get my point. But we were playing that match. We had gotten hooked a couple times before, right? Ash gets hooked one time. The second he gets on that hook, disconnects. Immediately disconnects. Dead by Daylight players will quit the game for literally the dumbest reasons. And now, yeah, sometimes when you're going against the 5th ghoul of the day or the 7th Michael Myers of the day, completely understandable. You just want to DC, you want to get out of that game, go next, right? Or maybe you just want to quit the game at that point. But at the same time, I'll say this, if you don't quit the game and you're just going to stand there and let the killer kill you, then you're doing less for your team than just letting the bot take over. But sometimes people just quit for the literally dumbest reasons, or no reason at all. It can be ridiculous.
In Dead by Daylight, sure, there are a lot of games you can consider to have toxic communities, some of which I'm confident are much more problematic than Dead by Daylight.
Siege.
But it's not a question of toxicity, it's a question of entitlement. Those may sound the same from the surface level, and sure, there is some overlap, but they're not completely one-to-one with each other. Well, I wouldn't necessarily consider the game to have the most toxic community of all time, largely due to a lack of in-game communication and voice chat, stuff like that. I would consider the community to be extremely entitled to what they feel they deserve, to almost a comical degree. That being said, how did we get here? Has the community always had this sort of problem, or is it getting worse due to the choice's behavior?
I think it's getting worse because of behavior's choices. I think because I think the main reason he's saying entitlement is because, you go in endgame chat, right? And you see someone talking about, bringing Noah at his baby perk, all this other stuff. He was talking about the unspoken rules. And when it comes to Dead by Daylight, there are a lot of unspoken, and they're not rules. Obviously, you don't need to follow them, especially if you're, a new killer, or you're just trying to play the game and have fun. You don't need to follow any of these rules. But I think a lot of survivors who play this game, and I think it's probably survivors who play this game for a while, not pro level hours or not Otzdava level hours, because people like that automatically just know either how to go around those perks, or just understand why people bring these perks and kind of have just accepted that it happens. I'd say people around 1,500 hours, my level hours, get really annoyed at people who bring like meta killers, meta perks, or like crutch perks. I think that's the thing a lot of people complain about the most, is because it's like, dude, it gets annoying, you know? Especially when you have to play against it over and over and over again. And I think that's a lot of where the complaining comes about. No, would I consider that being entitled? No. I just think people are just genuinely fed up playing the same bullcrap over and over. Although that's most of the complaining that I do and hear. It's just getting tired of playing Ghoul for the 5th time. Getting tired of playing against crutch killers who are just really easy to use, you know? And having to go against the same meta perks, you know? Like, what is that one Chucky perk? That one artist perk? Well, that's Pain Res. And then Friends to the End or whatever. Like, those 2 perks are used way too much, and I think a lot of the complaining just comes from the current meta, which is behavior's fault, so.
And more likely the community itself are making. How does a game like Dead by Daylight even foster such a problematic mindset? After all, the game is considerably simple from the most frontward view. What exactly has to happen?
From the most frontward view, it's very simple, but in reality, it's not, because you have to think about all of the killer's powers you have to memorize. You have to think about map generation, what maps are good, what maps are bad. And mind you, this is just from, like, Survivor's perspective, how to go against the killer's power, how to loop killers effectively, how to, like, when to go for saves, when to do gens and stuff like that. Like, Survivor is a lot simpler than Killer, but even still, you have to know a decent amount of the game and play the game for a while to actually, like, play against all the killers effectively. So it's deceptively simple, but when you get into the game, it's pretty, like, it can get pretty complicated.
Behind the scenes that drive players to these sorts of behaviors. In other words, what makes Dead by Daylight have gaming's most entitled community? From the word go, Dead by Daylight creates an us versus them mentality. Asymmetricality tends to do that. 2 different sides with different objectives leads to players relying on different mechanics that they tend to play tug of war with in order for the game to function as intended.
Yeah.
Different perks, different abilities, balancing issues, all of it has to be intricately designed.
I haven't seen a lot of people play as her. I thought she would be really good when, like, she came out first, but I don't see a lot of people playing as the Krasay.
In order to keep the game feeling equally as enjoyable to play for both of the sides. A balanced behavior struggles to maintain. We go from decent metas where the game is really fun to play to awful ones that ruin any motivation you might have.
Bro said fun metas, meanwhile what was that? Hold on.
Decent metas where the
4 generators, everyone's broken and 1 person's on hook. Yeah, that's a fun meta. And then Plaything, which is a horrible perk to go up against. All the other perks are pretty, like,
game is really fun to play to awful ones that ruin any motivation you might have to hop on for a match or 2. It's a spot I don't think people have enough sympathy for behavior having to deal with. I can't imagine it's easy to balance a game of that nature. It immediately creates a divide between...
It's not. But, like, I'll say this, when it comes to Siege, which is a game, I deleted Siege, because I'm tired of playing that shit. But when it comes to Siege does actually have a good balance. I can at least respect them for that. Because the thing is with a one-shot headshot game, it's just one-shot headshot. If you don't hit your headshots, then that's just your fault. But, like, you can kill people as well as they can kill you, and while gadgets may be not balanced, I don't think gadgets really changed that much. Unless you're, like, really good with that gadget and you're playing against people who are mediocre. That's a big difference. But if you pin a bunch of people of equal skill level against each other, it really just depends on gunfights. And that's about it. One-shot headshots, gunfights, stuff like that. Whereas Dead by Daylight, the perks are a lot of the meta, and so are the killers. So... yeah, I just want to get it.
People who choose to play one role or the other, especially when they refuse to dip their toes into the other side's issues. If you're playing a game with huge asymmetrical mechanics, it's easy to get frustrated when you don't understand what your opponents might be dealing with. And for a game like Dead by Daylight, this issue is about as prevalent as it gets. Dead by Daylight matches aren't created equal, and this leads to a lot of misunderstandings for what players consider to be fair. This isn't news to anyone who watches this channel, as I'm always talking about how DVDs are RNG elements lead to problems that a lot of us just have to struggle through. But in terms of entitlement, this definitely causes some different issues. Because there are so many variables in the game, especially when it comes to things players are actively picking to bring with them, it's easy to get mad at them for using what they perceive as just completely fair things. Certain perks are used in almost every match because they're really strong, but going against the same perks consistently might get old really quickly.
Exactly. That's what I was saying. Like, I think people complain most of the time because the meta has not changed. Mainly killer meta. Like, a lot of survivors change up perks because I feel like the survivor perks have been nerfed so much to the point. Like, you used to have, dude, don't get me wrong, like, Prime, Dead Hard, Decisive Strike, all those perks, yeah, they don't need to be in the game anymore because those were extremely powerful and really annoying, right? Maybe less Dead Hard, but Dead Hard is, like, terrible now. Like, all of those really meta perks back then are terrible now for Survivor. Whereas killer meta, the killer meta needs to go through the same thing because they need to rework certain perks to make them somewhat as good as the current killer perks, and they need to make a lot more killer perks better, but not as good as the current meta perks. Because if they do, then all the killers are just going to use those perks, and I think that's the biggest issue is having to go up against the same killer perks over and over and over and over and over again. I think killers having to deal with survivor perks is more unique because survivors have the chance to bring a bunch of different perks, and also because it's the killer going up against 4 people, you get to experience 4 different sets of perks, right? Whereas with Survivor, you only get to experience going up against one set of perks, and when it's the same over and over and over again, you just get tired of the game.
Killers might come across as unnecessary by the Survivor side, especially against weaker teams who won't be able to counter them as easily. Even things like maps can really play into this, as maps can completely nuke certain powers and perks if you happen to get unlucky enough. Luckily, people aren't...
Unless you're Blight, Nurse, Ghoul, or any sort of major mobility killer. I think another thing is that mobility killers have been the peak, and I'm not saying mobility killers should be nerfed, except for Ghoul. Get him the hell out of the game. I think Ghoul is probably the worst killer that's ever been introduced into Dead by Daylight's history, but whatever. Like, I think a lot of mobility killers that can just go across the map really fast are never really going to be bothered by maps, unless they're, like, indoor, except for Nurse, obviously. But, like, yeah, some maps, like the new Trickster map, dude, the new Trickster map is horrible for range killers. And just, like, Trickster as well. Like, any sort of range killer is terrible in that map. Undetectable killers and mobility killers are good. Like, mobility killers are always going to be good, but, like, undetectable killers and teleporting killers are pretty good on that map, but every other killer is, like, pretty bad. Like, I watched a whole Odd Stuff video that talked about the map.
Aren't really picking maps these days thanks to the godsend that was the nerfing of map offerings, but when maps are being artificially pushed out by behavior themselves due to the maps boosting being a thing, that can almost feel worse.
Yeah, that's annoying.
Trust me, I'm trying to learn Hillbilly right now, and I've gotten mostly indoor maps. It's actual torture. Anyway, because there are these inconsistencies between matches, playing Dead by Daylight on the regular makes things grow even more noticeable with time, and as a result, more and more frustrating. However, instead of taking this on the chin and accepting that matches aren't always going to feel the same, people will often blame the other players just for being there, and that's a big reason some of this entitlement takes root in the deepest of places. Nobody likes dealing with what they believe is unfair, and because Dead by Daylight...
See how the last 2 clips he picks Singularity and Chucky? Because nobody likes playing against those killers. The fact that Singularity can use his overclock ability as many times as he wants as long as that thing is on your back is absolutely ridiculous, and the fact that Chucky can lunge, goes undetectable, is barely visible because you can't see him, has some weird, like, altered footstep power where you hear his footsteps when he's not even close to you, and can go under pallets and over window vaults. Who decided to give Chucky this many powers? Oh, and you see these 2 perks right here? You see Plaything and Pain Res. Pain Res might be the worst decision Dead by Daylight has ever made in the game. They need to nerf the perk or rework it, okay? I love how they rework Streetwise. See, this is what I'm talking about. Survivor perks get literally pounded into the ground. Because what do you mean they rework Streetwise, but they don't rework any of the annoying killer meta perks? Like, what? Like, why? Why? Literally, why?
Daylight's balance is so tough to perfect. Things may go for a really long time without being properly adjusted for the overall player's experience. This gets even worse when you take things like player preference into consideration. Because there's these variables that make the game work as intended, there's also a lot that people might despise that some people love. Something someone loves will always be something someone else hates. In Dead by Daylight, certain killers might be largely perceived as unfun.
No. No. Ghoul is unfun. Not largely perceived as unfun. No. Ghoul is unfun. They need to get rid of this killer of the game. Okay, I'm not a pro player, right? I'm not the best player in the game. But when I tell you, I should not, like, this killer should not exist. Just genuinely, this killer should not exist.
But there's always that one person who enjoys going against them or playing as them.
No one enjoys going against Ghoul. No. Don't lie. No. I'm gonna go full screen for this. I'm trying not to go full screen because then I have to go out of OBS and into OBS, right? No, I'm gonna go full screen. I'm gonna take the headphones off too. I'm gonna get serious with you. Matter of fact, hold on. Matter of fact, hold up. I had to find my shades. Because I need to talk to you. Really quick. Don't sit here and lie to us and act like you think Ghoul is fun to play against. Nobody in the history of playing this game thinks Ghoul is fun to play against. I remember I played a PTB and I played as Ghoul, right? Because I don't want to get Ghoul. I'm not gonna buy Ghoul because I don't want him, right? Like, I'm not gonna play as a baby easy killer. Okay? I played as Ghoul. Couple PTB matches, right? Almost every single match I played, people DC'd. People got the hell out of there. And I know they did that because you can do that in a PTB and not get a matchmaking penalty. I don't care. The fact that I play the game as Ghoul and so many people DC, nobody likes playing against Ghoul. Genuinely, nobody likes playing against Ghoul. Okay? You might like playing as Ghoul. You might not find Ghoul nearly as annoying as other people do, but no one likes playing against Ghoul. No one is going to sit here and be like, oh my god, Ghoul is so fun to play against. Oh my god, it's a Ghoul. I love it. No one thinks Ghoul is fun to play against. Alright? That's all I'm going to say. Okay, so you could have put Skull Merchant. You could have put anyone up there. But you have the audacity to put the worst you have the audacity. You can't. I don't know if you can see my mouse circling this. But you have the audacity to put this guy on the screen saying, oh, well, there's always going to be some person that likes playing against a killer. Nobody likes playing against Ghoul. You could have put literally any other killer up here, and I would agree. Not Ghoul.
But because people in general are much more likely to be receptive to negativity instead of positivity, it often feels like there's nothing you can do in order to keep everyone happy, so most people would rather not try at all. And I don't really blame them for that. This flows into different play styles too. A lot of people would prefer to play the game the way they want to, but because those ways of playing aren't considered to be fun by everyone, you'll often get called out for the most random reasons. If you're playing with a group of friends and swiffing for fun just because you're in a group of players, you might get called sweaty by the killer. Or on the other hand, you might be forced to play a certain way, maybe due to the map or maybe how fast the game is progressing.
I'll say this. When it comes to how people play. I understand why some people slug. I understand why some people hook camp. If there are but I've always had this rule. If there are 4 to 5 generators left and you're tunneling, slugging, or hook camping, you're a loser. Deadass. If there's 2 generators left and you have 3 hooks, I completely understand why you're doing this shit, alright? Like, I might get upset because it's like, dude, it's annoying, especially if I'm the one on the hook or one of my friends is. But I completely understand why you're doing it. It's because you're down and you need to get up. That's the whole point, right? If you're tunneling and it's like there's 2 gens left, you only have 3 hooks, you're doing it because you need to do it. That's completely understandable because it's a way to play the game strategically. But when there's 4 generators left and you already have 2 hooks and you're tunneling the guy you just hooked again, bro, what are you doing? Like, you're making the game miserable for everyone else for literally no reason. You could easily go after someone else. I get sometimes it's just getting the weak link out of the game. But, bro, when you do that every single game, the shit gets annoying. Because the person who's the weak link has no chance to actually get better playing the game. Because they just get tunneled into oblivion. Well, I mean, they do. Because they might learn how to loop killers better. And it's a way to kind of force progress. But it's also really annoying because it makes the person who's probably newer to the game and not as experienced not want to play the game because they're just getting targeted simply because they're new, which sucks. That's like playing a game. That's like playing a game, right? Like Siege. You go into your first unranked match. You get absolutely dominated dookied on. You go to R6 Tractor after the match. 3 of those guys were champion. Does it really make you want to play the game when one of the first matches you get some of the best players you ever met, or you just get straight up floundered? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I can understand why people tunnel and why people can't, but sometimes just don't do it, bro, because you're making the other person who's probably new to the game, seeing as, like, obviously good players know how to circumvent tunneling because they can either loop really well or, like, they don't complain because it's like, alright, well, I get to loop this killer and they get to do gens. But, like, people who aren't good at that are not going to do well, and those are the people that usually get targeted. Like, usually in a match what'll happen is I'm pretty good at looping the killer. So, a lot of the times what's happened in, like, the previous matches, I'll be looping the killer. They could have gotten a hit off of me or whatever, but I'll be looping them for so long and hitting them with a lot of pallets and whatever, they'll just leave. So they don't tunnel me, they don't chase me, they don't go after me, because they know if they do, I'm going to loop them until 2 gens are getting done. But for people who are new and are not that good, which you can usually tell by the first chase if you down them pretty quickly, and then they just tunnel that person out, that just sucks.
But because you make a choice to win above everything else, you're
But, like,
all
I
of a
can
sudden the
understand
worst
why
thing to
some
happen
people
to
do
Dead
that.
by
It's
Daylight and
understandable in
ruining the
certain
game. This
circumstances
circles
and
back
some
into the
and
unspoken
not in
rules I
others.
talked about previously. Because people have a preferred way of playing the game, those who don't comply with that playstyle are seen as part of the problem. Sure, you can play nice if you want to, that's always a choice. But for Dead by Daylight, it often feels expected that you play that way. This is, of course, a completely unreasonable expectation, and those that expect the other players of a multiplayer game to be tailoring their playstyle to fit a specific mold are nothing more than bubble-blowing babies who need to pull their head out of their ass. The thing is, because Dead by Daylight is an asymmetrical game and not your classic shooter game or whatever you're used to, you're not going to have the same goals and objectives. Most multiplayer games will have a standard team versus team format, or one where the goal is pretty standard for everyone. However, because Dead by Daylight's objectives are as simple as kill all the survivors or escape the killer, people will do whatever it takes to reach that goal, and because people aren't using the same things, it can easily feel unfair. This feeds into the general feeling of entitlement that most players express.
Well, I think it being unfair, because the way he was talking about, like, the unspoken rules, I saw some of them where it was like, oh, let the last survivor always get hatched, shit like that. When I was a killer, and I say when I was a killer because I haven't played killer in a while, I usually let the last person get hatched. Now, unless they're being, like, an idiot and they're going and doing generators or whatever, and I'm just waiting by hatch, and I'm like, TikTok, buddy, like, come on. You know what I mean? Like, I usually let the last survivor get hatch. But that's not something you're supposed to do. Like, if that's something you're complaining about in a game, then you are just, like, you are a bubble-blowing baby. Right? Because, like, dude, who cares? He didn't give you the hatch. Whatever. You're not good enough for the hatch, okay? You didn't earn the hatch, alright? I think sometimes, when killers give people the hatch, I think it's because they think they earned it, like they were the best player, and they're like, you know what, I don't need the 4K. Something that I will say is extremely annoying, though, and I think universally is hated, is when killers sweat for the 4K. Now, when I say when killers sweat for the 4K, I don't mean they get everyone on death hook and then kill each person one by one. I mean, there's 2 people left in the lobby. Either you're doing a generator, or you know that the other guy's getting chased and he's on death hook, so you're hiding and waiting. Because that's the only thing that you can do. It's the only logical thing you could do. Why would you complete a gen, alert the killer of your position while he's about to down someone? Because then all he has to do is hook that person and then go to the generator, look for scratch marks, or just look for the exit gates that's closest to that generator. So it's like, you get off the generator, you start walking around, you hide a bit, maybe you go in a locker. One of the most annoying things killers do consistently is they will leave that. Now, it hasn't happened as of recently, which thank God, but what they'll do is they will deadass leave the guy on the ground for a solid 3 minutes just to go around the map looking for you. It's not that serious, bro. Because I could literally be hiding in the most unseeable spot. Like, you will never find me. They will literally wait until the guy is either dead, like bleeds out on the ground, or till he's like 3 seconds from bleeding out on the ground, and then he'll pick him up. It's wasting your time. Bro, get the 4K or get the 3K and then hope you either find hatch or you're by the exit gates. Either way. Like, dude, literally just get the 3K, go find Hatch. If you don't find Hatch, GG's, it was still a good game, you won. No, what motherfuckers will do is they'll leave the guy on the ground just for a whole 4 minutes, go all around the map looking for you, and it's the most loser shit ever, bro. Just accept the 3K, and if you get the 4K, cool, you're good at the game. You know Hatch spawn locations, or you found it then better than I did. Either way, good game. No, motherfuckers will sweat their ass off to get the 4K. That's just the most annoying thing ever.
If you do the smallest thing that someone else doesn't like, they might want to drag you through the mud just for using it, despite the fact that if it's in the game, it's also fair game. Barring, like, exploits and cheating, stuff that's obviously not supposed to be used. Things like this are exactly why Dead by...
I love playing Hunters, but boy, do I have games where I cannot hit a single hatchet. Just yesterday, I had a game like that. I was off the mark and just not doing good. The Swift I was against noticed and turned into a bully squad, spamming their flashlights, pointing at me and teabagging, fast vaulting over and over as they get my attention, just complete disrespect. I try not to let it bother me too much, but man, this event caused more stuff on my skin. I think that's annoying, where people are just, like, fucking with you for no reason. Like, the whole teabagging shit is unnecessary. Like, especially if you're not doing good, because those people are literally just assholes. Like, let's be real. I mean, this was 4 years ago when flashlights, I'm pretty sure, were still overpowered as shit. Or maybe not overpowered, but before they were a lot more powerful. But, like, this kind of stuff is just really annoying because you have no reason to be doing this, to be teabagging and doing all this shit. Because, first off, I mean, for all you know, they could have an endgame build, and by the end of the game, you get absolutely dominated, right? But also, it just makes people not want to play the game. Like, that's the whole thing. I think it's understandable to complain about toxic losers who are just basically trying to force you off the game by being, like, a douchebag. I think it's completely fair to complain about the meta of the game and, you know, why certain killers even exist and how they haven't been nerfed. And I think some playstyles the killer uses, depending on the situation, are completely valid to complain about. I don't think complaining... Now, I hate killer meta, but I don't think it's reasonable to complain about killers using meta because... No shit. It's like complaining about people using a meta gun in a game that's going to get you kills. No duh, I'm gonna use the meta gun in the game that's gonna get me kills. People would complain, yeah, but why shouldn't I use the meta gun? Like, when I go into Fortnite and I do customs, I usually use 2 guns, right? Like, red versus blue. The Lawless Trinity Rifle, because it does 30 damage per shot, it's actually cracked. And then that new Chaos Shotgun or whatever. And motherfuckers can complain that I use that because, oh, you're shotgun crutching, or it's just like a really easy to use damaging gun. Yeah, that's the point. That's the point. It's easy to use. It's meta. You're going to use the gun. So I don't complain that much. It's annoying, but I don't think it's a valid complaint to complain that killers are using meta. They're using meta killers. But I think it's fine to complain that those killers and the meta exists. You know what I mean? Because it is a little unbalanced and a little annoying. I think it's completely fair to complain about the other stuff. But a lot of Dead by Daylight players just complain about the stupidest things.
Daylight has such a sore winner problem. Players, no matter what side they're playing, always feel like they're fighting against the odds due to a perceived imbalance between the things that are...
Okay, I said I wasn't going to talk mostly about this video, but that's what I'm talking about. Like, it's fine to complain about certain killers. Like, Michael's rework is completely brain dead, in my opinion. It's completely fair to complain about that. Now, to target the person who's playing the killer is a little less, like, he's just playing a really good killer. And even though it's annoying some people play crutch killers, they aren't the one that made the killer a crutch killer, so...
exist in the game. It feeds into this mentality that the players you're going against are using things that they don't need to use, as if it's a personal attack on you for playing the game. Because Dead by Daylight is the game it is, and not one of the more traditional multiplayer games you might be used to playing, it tends to have a much more casual vibe, and that's completely fine. But people don't treat it that way, or treat it too much that way. Either people play DBD like their lives depend on it and crash out at a slightly too strong gust of wind, or people treat the game like nothing in it matters and leave the second they don't go against what they want to. And then to top it all off and to make this issue worse, you have those groups of people directly interacting and clashing with each other, which, like oil and water, just doesn't go together. Even though behavior has pushed far more into the casual side of it, you'll often find people that play like their lives are on the line and will treat the other players like that's the case. Again, that's...
Exactly. Like the 4K thing I was talking about, slugging the last the second to last survivor on the ground and going around the entire map for minutes on end trying to find the last survivor. Shit's annoying, bro. Like, it's your life does. You're not in pro league, okay? Your life does not depend on this match. Just play the game, get your 3K. You still won, and have fun.
Fine, play the way you want.
Unless that last guy was like being a douchebag or whatever, and it's like the only reason that's acceptable is like you down that survivor and then you know where the other survivor is. That's fair. But when you don't know where the other survivor is and you're literally just walking around the map for minutes on end, brother, chill.
But when you have two different types of players clashing on the regular, it really doesn't help the game and the entitlement issue. Taking a step out of the game and focusing on the things in the peripheral doesn't help either. As much as I think content creators are a generally good thing for the game, I can't pretend that they don't contribute to this problem. Discussion around Dead by Daylight is generally negative, even when the game is in a good spot. This is obviously because negative content just tends to perform better than positive content. So the people that make videos about this game are more likely to focus on the things that suck instead of the things that don't suck. This means that players will often feel like Dead by Daylight isn't a game they should be putting in effort to get better at, and would instead blame everything else for why their experience isn't fun. This sort of content also tends to villainize whichever role they don't play in some big ways, which can be really bad for the game's health. DBD already has enough issues when it comes to us versus them mindsets, and the fact that people flock to that content in order to feel better absolutely doesn't help. Generally speaking, you'd have a much harder time finding content that's positive over, well, the content that isn't. Let me be clear, I don't think people shouldn't be critical of the game. That's fine and deserved most of the time. However, there are some people, not gonna name any names here, who will artificially inflate the game's issues and villainize the rules of it in order to promote their own content because that works for them.
Oh yeah, negativity just sells because people, I don't know why, but people would rather just focus on the negative things than the positive things. And I think it's especially potent with Dead by Daylight because, and I think just online games in general, because people always want to focus on the negatives because they just like complaining a lot. Like, don't get me wrong, I complain a lot when I play games, but usually I complain a lot about valid things. Like when I have to play against Ghoul, or I have to play against the new Michael Myers, or I have to play against some overpowered build or whatever, I'll complain. But in reality, I know that the reason they're doing it is because of Dead by Daylight. I think a lot of people need to stop getting mad at players and getting entitled. I think people need to start realizing that it's not the players' fault that they're playing overpowered killers. It's behavior's fault that they made these killers overpowered and crutch. And they have to realize that the reason the game is ass is not because, oh, these killers are, just using cheap killers and whatever. It's because behavior has made the game so unbalanced that it's not fun for people. But the thing is there's killers that are unbalanced, but at the same time, there's also a lot of killers that aren't that are either not that good or are not unbalanced. Like a lot of killers, you think about it, like Huntress. Honestly, I don't mind playing against Huntress because the thing is her hatchet hitbox has gotten a lot better, and Huntress is easy to play against. Like all you have to do is just not get hit by her hatchets, find good loops to loop her around, and she's a pretty simple killer, honestly. Same thing with Wraith. Trapper can be a little annoying, but he's not unbalanced. Like a lot of the beginning cast of characters, besides Nurse, is pretty fair and balanced, and then there's also a lot of killers that are just fun to play against or are not unbalanced. I think a lot of the newer killers they've made have been really annoying. Ghoul, Chucky, Vecna's pretty annoying, but the last time I went up against him, he didn't really use his power a lot, so But killers like that, I can see mainly, and it's mainly because of power creep, which is a whole different discussion. But I don't know. There is a lot of positive about the game. It's just the issue is because people encounter the negative so much, which again is the meta perks, the meta killers and shit like that, especially on Survivor. And then for killer it's less. But even so, like with the 4-mans, even though it's just people trying to have fun playing the game, like they encounter the negative so much more than the positive that I feel like that's also why they feed into the negativity.
For views, works for money. I mean, let's be fair, it's a video game. It really isn't that deep. This would be much more problematic if we were talking about real world issues, but I think it's worth bringing up for why there's this general vibe around the game that never feels particularly good. If behavior makes a bad choice or update, absolutely 100% call that out. However, if they make a good change, we should definitely be bringing that up too. It's important that, like the game, our takes are balanced. Nobody likes being overly negative, it just doesn't feel good, but doing that can also feel like a drug. Addictive, intoxicating. The way our brains are wired leads to negativity being so much more powerful than positivity, and interacting with content that promotes that sort of mindset is just going to make you miserable and lead to a never-ending cycle where you're consuming more and more of that negative content. This doesn't just affect you and the community, but also behavior themselves. How is behavior going to know what changes are good if everybody is always acting like they never do anything right? It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, like that is a big problem because again, as I said, there are positive things about the game. I think the map reworking is a really good thing. I do like the new map that they came out with. I think there are a lot of problems that behavior like I think behavior's biggest problem is balancing issues and also just not coming up with good enough killers. Like I think the new killer Vecna, I think I think he's just too basic of a killer if you want me to be honest. Not to say that he like I think he has good design. I think his character looks good, his character model. I think overall his power is interesting, the whole like grandfather clock. I think the negatives are is like his power is too basic. And also it can be really like in the hands of someone who's really good can be really overpowered. But besides that, I mean there's nothing really bad about the new chapter when it comes to Vecna. Well technically the new chapter is the Trickster rework, which is also a pretty good thing. Like the Trickster rework not bad. I never thought the Trickster was that bad in the first place. Honestly, people complain a lot about the Trickster. I never really thought the Trickster was that bad, personally. And I like the new map they added. Like, Behavior has done a lot of good things for that game. I think that just... I just think they need to I think they need to focus on the meta. I think they need to rework the meta. I think they need to rework a lot of killers. Get Ghoul out of the game. That's... Honestly... Rework some of the perks and get Ghoul out of the game. I think if you did that, your game would be 10 times better. That's all I'm saying.
It's important to be as truthful as you can be, and a large part of that is accepting that sometimes they can get things right too. This sort of content, of course, feeds into entitlement. Again, it's deeply rooted in what players think is fair. If people are only ever seeing negative discussions around the game, they're more likely to have short fuses and leave the match at the smallest inconvenience. If people are being told that this, that, and this thing over here are unfair to go against, they're always going to be in that headspace where they're ready to complain. Sure, some of that is true, and I'm sure you're well aware of how much bullshit is in this game, but it's never justification to throw up your hands and give up because you don't want to deal with it. Remember, you're not just ending the game for yourself, but ending the game for everybody else. It's just not the way to go about doing things. If you really hate something in the game, talk about it in circles where that opinion can gain traction. Don't just end the game and leave your teammates with a bot because you don't feel like dealing with whatever bullshit pissed you off at that particular time. It's a loser mindset to have. Just don't do it. The core question of this issue is, can this entitlement be fixed? Well, I don't really know. Like I said, it's deeply rooted into the game's DNA, and it's not something that can be fixed in a single patch.
Yeah, I don't think the entitlement is ever going to go away. Mainly just because that's how human beings work. I think they could fix a lot of the problems, mainly the ones I just talked about in the game. But I think people even then are still going to complain, because it's either going to be killers are going to complain, survivors are going to complain, which to be fair, survivors complain the most. However, I think in this current meta, I think survivors have the biggest reasons to complain. But sometimes the stuff they complain about is just ridiculous, you know?
I think behavior has made some changes that have made this less problematic, like a DC penalty and just general good balance updates, but it's on the community as much as it is on them. It will obviously take time and a lot of effort from everybody in order for the game's community to be more tolerant and accepting of different playstyles.
I'm gonna say a hot take right here. I don't think DC penalties are actually that good. The reason is because if you're playing a Dead by Daylight match and you want to leave that game, you're going to know that a DC penalty, you're going to know that if you disconnect from the game, there's a DC penalty. So you're not going to want to disconnect from the game. So instead what you're going to do is you're going to put the controller down, or you're going to get your hands off the mouse and keyboard, and you're just going to let the killer win. It's better to remove yourself from the game and give us a bot than just stand there or kill yourself on hook. And I think having a DC penalty is extreme, sometimes like 15 minutes, makes people just not want to even play the game. Because they know if they queue into the first match of the day and it's some bullshit ghoul using pain res, friends till the end, whatever that one, like, disillusion that breaks pallets after you get injured if you vault them, and then some maybe like hex perk or just like annoying meta perks, then you're gonna want to DC from the game because you're gonna be like, all right, Dead by Daylight's not my game today. But you know, if you do that, you're just gonna get a 15-minute penalty, and it's gonna be like, I mean, either way, you're probably gonna quit the game after that match, but it's just annoying, you know. So instead, what you're gonna do, not wanting to get the DC penalty, even if that's your first and only game of the day, you're just gonna let the killer kill you, and that's more useless than if you just let a bot take over. So I don't necessarily 100% agree with DC penalties, but I understand why they exist. I just don't think that they should go past like 10 minutes, honestly. Because when you have like a 2-hour DC penalty, dude, come on. You know what I mean?
But I'd rather that than not trying at all. As long as behavior keeps trying to keep the game balanced and fun, they're doing their part. It's on us. It's on content creators to be truthful in regards to what they feel, and it's on the players to be more patient and less ready to jump ship the second water hits the hull. Maybe we'll get there. Someday. Until then, that's it for me, gamers. Have a great day.
Alright. That was actually a pretty good video. I'm probably not going to edit it down much. This will be like a 40-minute video. Just going to be me ranting a lot. But yeah, honestly, when it comes to the positive things, like, I think a lot of people should start to focus on the positives when it comes to Dead by Daylight. Because I've been playing it a little bit more, and I've kind of been wanting to play it just on my own, too. But, I mean, solo queue is terrible in any online multiplayer game. But, like, people need to realize that a lot of the things they're complaining about are probably not very valid. Let's be real. Like, you shouldn't be complaining that the killer's not giving you the exit gate, the killer's not giving you the hatch. And while, yeah, in the moment you can be like, bro, this killer's playing such a crutch killer, yada yada, bro. Like, why is he playing Michael Myers? Why is he playing Ghoul? Why is he playing a Skull Merchant? Why is he playing Chucky? You also have to realize that while you might not play those killers because you might not want to play those, like, not crutch killers, but just really easy to play killers that have really good abilities, that's you. They might not be as good at the game as you. They might just want to have a simpler and funner time, so they're going to play a killer that's easier to play, because, again, games are meant to be played to have fun. So if they want to have fun, they're going to play an easy killer that they can have fun with. That's not going to give them a hard time. They're not trying to play a Blight or Nurse, these S tier, like, high skill ceiling killers that, like, need a lot. Because the thing is Blight and Nurse you do need to actually be good at. There are S tier killers with great mobility, and sometimes it can seem unfair. But if you're terrible with those killers, you're not going anywhere. Also, sorry my hair is atrocious today, but I haven't, like, combed it or anything like that. Point is if you want to complain about anything, complain to behavior. Complain about behavior and the way the meta is in the game. Because that's the only that's the biggest problem with the game. Is how strong some of the killers are compared to some of the other killers. It's not really balanced. And some of the perks just need a meta change. That's it. For the killers. Not for survivors, right? Survivors have already gone through a lot of big meta perk changes. I think it's time for killers to start going through similar things, alright? I think those are the biggest problems with Dead by Daylight, and I think once they fix those, the game will be fine. But yeah, anyway, that was a good video. Make sure to go check out that guy's channel, like, subscribe. Make sure to like and subscribe on this video. Again, this video is going to be mostly unedited. Or pretty much all unedited. I might edit out that little segment I was looking at my glasses, but that's about it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys, check out my next video that I'm going to make about 2 years from now. Don't worry, I post very frequently. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.